don't go live here often. I would if I could build an audience, if YouTube would actually push my videos, but whatever. Anywho, the reason why I'm going live today is because I came across an article from a couple days ago. Okay? The title of this article is from Oklahoma's News 4. Director of Children's Ministries arrested for child porn molesting in Norman, Oklahoma. The Norman Police Department says a caregiver has been arrested after a report of a child under the age of 12 being molested around Christmas time of last year. Officials say they responded to a home in Norman on December 28, 2022, where the original report was made. That caregiver was 45-year-old Christopher Ford Cade, who was arrested Thursday after a months-long investigation, according to NPD. Officials say that during that investigation, additional juvenile victims were identified. They say an arrest was made after they found more information through forensic interviews. Ford Cade is listed on the First Christian Church of Norman website as its director of children's ministries. Let me repeat that. Ford Cade is listed on the First Christian Church of Norman website as its director of children's ministries. The wolf hiding in plain sight. Who would have guessed that the director of children's ministries would be assaulting children? Funny how that works. There's more to the article, but we've gotten through the meat and potatoes of it. Here's the problem for you Christians. For one, you're wrong. Period. Sorry. But Christianity is absolutely, positively wrong. It is incorrect. It is nonsensical. It is baseless. It is garbage. It is false. It is fictitious. It is fictional. It is absolutely unreasonable, unsound. It is not based in reality at all. Never has been, never will be. The reason why that's important is because Christians love to assert that they have the moral high ground, that they have the correct position, that they are absolutely, totally in tune with the Lord, or whatever nonsense they love to purport. And yet, at the end of the day, not a single one of you can demonstrate that what you're talking about is actually the truth. You never have been able to, you never will be able to, because it don't exist at all. And so then here comes the real meat and potatoes of my gripe with Christians and theists of all stripes. You go to these buildings, you worship, you dedicate your lives to this fictitious nonsense, and meanwhile, there are wolves among your congregation hurting your kids. And instead of trying to figure out how to prevent this shit from happening, instead, you want to attack me. You want to come at me because I highlight the fact that not only is your theology incorrect, but because of your extreme dedication to your theology, you are doing everything possible to shield these wolves, to shield these predators who have been hurting kids in the name of your God for millennia. This has been going on for millennia, not decades, not centuries, millennia. Starting with the Catholic Church. And just because you might be some Protestant or a freaking sect or cult, you're all the same. You claim that you care about the kids. You talk about all of this, progressive left-wing nonsense about the trans community and all that. And don't get me wrong, there is definitely some nonsense there, for sure. But then you turn around and pretend like because you believe this baseless nonsense that you can't demonstrate a shred of, you think somehow you're better than everyone. And then every time somebody like me comes along and points these things out to you, hey, if there's such a thing as a God, then why is he allowing a weirdo like 4K to continually assault multiple children? Why is that happening on your watch, in your congregation, in your facilities? How is this happening? Why is your God not stopping it? And see, and this is the problem that I have with you Christians. Every single time these things happen and I point it out to you, you all get so fucking angry with me. You want to attack me. You want to say, oh, he's pushing an agenda. He's trying to conflate these things. He's trying to make light of children suffering. Wrong! Wrong! See, yes, I'm trying to push an agenda. You know what my agenda is? Preventing children from being assaulted. Yeah, I actually do not want children to be assaulted. Therefore, my agenda is to ensure that that does not happen. Funny how it doesn't appear that your agenda aligns with mine. Huh. Funny how that works. You are so dedicated to your delusion, you are willing to sacrifice the lives and the well-being of your own children to preserve your delusion. And this wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't the overwhelming majority of you. The overwhelming majority of people on this planet subscribing to some theistic bullshit who are sacrificing their own kids to preserve their delusional beliefs. That's why we can't ever have conversations about these topics. That's why TikTok had my live access banned, because I was actually building a following challenging this bullshit. Because see, here's the problem. If Christian theology was correct, then why has it failed so miserably at protecting children? Why is there story after story after story after story of kids, innocent people being harmed, being maimed, being assaulted in your facilities if they are so protected by the Lord, by Jesus Christ, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? Where the fuck are any of these motherfucking deities and entities that you claim are so real? Where are they? How come whenever somebody wants to shoot up a school, shoot up a church, harm kids in churches, in Christian schools, y'all ain't got nothing to offer other than thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers and prayers and thoughts and thoughts and prayers, prayers and thoughts and thoughts and prayers? That shit don't work. Thoughts and prayers don't do a damn thing. You ain't thinking about nothing other than the weak-ass Bible. Your prayers don't do nothing. Multiple studies have shown that prayer accomplishes a damn thing. Get it through your heads. On the Global Peace Index, out of 163 countries, the United States of America ranks 129th. We are at the fucking bottom. And we're at the bottom because we're a nation that is being destroyed by these religious zealots who are purporting and pushing their theological bullshit that cannot be demonstrated to be true in any way, shape, or form. It is 2023. Christianity has had over 2,000 years to demonstrate a shred of its claims. Not a single one of you, not This is the reason why I came up with the what I call the ultimate rage paradox. Okay, came up with my own thought, and it goes like this: despite the 13.8 billion years that the universe has existed, give or take, despite the thousands upon thousands of years that Christianity has been around, and despite the billions upon billions of Christians who've ever existed and who currently exist today, not a single one of you can demonstrate any of your theistic claims to be true. And specific to Christians, not a single Christian can demonstrate the existence of a Father, Son, or Holy Spirit. The triumvirate, triune God that you claim is so real. Every time we put you to the test, you fail 100% of the time. So you mean to tell me that out of the billions and billions of Christians that exist, not a single one of you can demonstrate that your God actually exists at all? You want to say things like, well, God is everywhere. God is everywhere. Okay, then why can't you show him to me then? Why can't you show me where exactly this motherfucker is? Why? Where? Where? It's everywhere, but you can't show nothing. You can't demonstrate nothing. But you have no problem going to church every Sunday, every other day, worshiping, wasting the hell out of your time, clapping it up, singing weak-ass songs that accomplish nothing. Meanwhile, kids are being assaulted, and y'all ain't doing the damn thing about it. In fact, Christianity is so insufficient for helping us create a well-functioning society that we had to invent a legal system. Because despite its flaws and its corruption, and that's a whole nother topic, we can get into that anytime. It's not right now. It is a billion times better than your theology. But see, the biggest problem that we face today is that you Christians have invaded our political system, our legal system, and have tried to warp our legal system around your theological bullshit. And as a result, we're plunging further and further on the Global Peace Index. At one point, we were 126th. We've fallen to 129th. And it keeps plunging further and further the more that you Christians and Muslims and all you theists refuse to acknowledge that you are wasting your time with religious nonsense that is destroying the planet and the potential survivability of humanity. All because y'all are too fucking stubborn to admit that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because if you did, you could come right here and demonstrate it to me and the rest of the world. Instead of just talking about this God that you claim is so real, you could actually show us, show me, show the entire world where exactly Jesus is. And then he can come here and explain to all of us why he is allowing children to be harmed by these predators everywhere around the world. Specifically, we're not even going to talk about things that happen at schools, that happen at people's homes. We're talking about at your church, at your facility. If your church was such a safe place, if your Christian schools were such safe places, then why are people getting murdered there? Why are kids being assaulted there? And why are these stories constantly happening and you are offering not a single tangible solution? You want to offer things like, well, if everybody just believed in the Lord, Wrong! Believing in the Lord has not a damn thing to do with solving any of these problems. In fact, we can put it to the test by just looking at prisons. The overwhelming majority of people in prisons are theists. Yeah. Christians and Muslims. And all kinds of abuses go on in those places. So if believing in the Lord was sufficient for helping us create a well-functioning society, why do we have a prison industrial complex? But we're getting off topic. Let's bring it back to the children. I know that y'all hate to face truth. You hate it. You hate the truth because the truth is harsh. It is absolutely harsh. It's very, very difficult for delusional people to accept truth because then that would destroy the delusion, which is the point of being delusional. Delusions mean that you don't accept the truth. You want to see the world as you want to. And as a result, you are willing to accept the worst of the worst of the worst from people because you are too delusional. You are too closely knit with your worldview. You've made it a part of your identity. You've made it a part of your very being. When you talk to people about who you are, one of the first things that you will say is that you are a believer, you're a God believer, a servant of the Lord, however way you want to characterize it. You will say these things. You will assert these things. You will purport these things. And yet, after thousands of years, despite the thousands of years that Christianity has been around, Christianity can't even survive the Socratic method. All it takes is a few simple questions to bring your entire house of cards tumbling to the ground. Because at the end of the day, it's a house of cards. That's it. Religion is a house of cards, and it is nonsense. If you knew what the hell you were talking about, Christians, you could demonstrate it right now, at any point in time, at the drop of a hat. In fact, it would what you purport would be so prevalent and obvious, wouldn't even need to ask you nothing, because the Lord would just show up and say, "Hey, what's up?" He'd get on this live right now, and then I could just be talking to him instead of talking to you, trying to understand why you continuously believe this absurd, insane, inane bullshit instead of accepting the reality that y'all don't know what you're talking about. At the end of the day, not a single one of you, that goes for everybody in my family, because yes, even my family, the overwhelming majority of them believe the same bullshit. And I have no problem saying that they're all full of shit, because that is a fact. Because it doesn't matter who I talk to. Not a single Christian can demonstrate the existence of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You want to talk in deepities? You want to talk in code? You want to talk in woo? You say things like, oh, well, you got to look inside. You got to look inside your heart. You got to look inside your mind. You just have to accept Jesus into your heart. You just have to call out to the Lord and tell him to show up. You have to, all this bullshit. And none of it ever work. Because we put it to the test, it never works. We put a camera on you and you do that, it doesn't work. I've tried it. I've done it. It don't work. And not only does it not work, it will never work because it's not real. It's not true. There is no magic power to religion. There is no magic power to believe. There is no magic powers that you gain from delusion. Delusion is not a solution to anything. Delusion is not a solution. Delusion is not a solution. Delusion is not a solution. I know a lot of you would like to say things like, well, if you believe on faith, faith will get... No. Faith is delusion. Faith is the excuse you give for believing something we have no good reason to believe it. That sounds an awful lot like delusion. And we're not talking about faith in things that are sensible, like, or things that could happen, like, oh, I have faith that I will become the president of the United States. I have faith that I'll become an astronaut. Those things could happen. They're highly unlikely, but they could happen. What can't happen is trying to prove the existence of a fictional character. If you're going to try to tell me that Doug Funny and Patty Mayonnaise are real people, you have a hard time trying to convince me. I mean, you might be able to find a dude named Doug Funny. You might be able to find a chick named Patty Mayonnaise. But they're not going to be the characters from the TV show Doug. That's the point. You might find somebody named Peter Parker. That don't mean he's Spider-Man. In the same way, just because you say so passionately, just because you scream and yell, the Lord, the Lord, the Lord, the Lord, the Lord, does not mean that there's such a thing. It doesn't matter how much you want to believe it. It doesn't matter how loudly you scream it. It doesn't make it true. Sorry. Believing nonsense very fervently means nothing if you can't demonstrate that your belief is rooted in reality. That's the saddest part about Christianity, about all religion, all theism. It's all false. None, I repeat, none of it survives the Socratic method, let alone the scientific method. Any of your claims put to the test will fail 100% of the time because they're not true, period. And as a result, instead of y'all accepting this as the reality that we inhabit, you continually purport your bullshit nonsense. And as a result, children all over the world are being harmed. And not only that, but these predators are being protected. The Catholic Church has protected predators in their congregations for millennia. All over the world. Literally all over the world. You know what I'm saying? A story came out, last year? Or was it earlier this year? About Catholic Church in freaking Maryland. I think in Baltimore. Just in Baltimore. And we're talking about this was going back like 50 years or something like that. And that's just in Baltimore. Okay? We're talking about the entire world. All the way up the chain to the very top. The last pope, what was his name? Pope Benedict? When you have to resign because you're protecting child predators, that should tell you everything you need to know about religion. Because, see, if this dude was so in tune with this moralistic supreme being that's so morally superior to everybody, then why did this morally superior being fail to inform this guy that protecting child predators not the best idea in the world? Not the best idea in the world. And that goes back to the point I made about the legal system. We had to invent a legal system because if we didn't have it, this shit would be rampant throughout the world. More than it already is. More than it already is. Because at the end of the day, religion is insufficient. It is absolutely, positively insufficient for helping us create a well-functioning society for ourselves. And thus, children all over the nation, all over the world are being harmed as a result of it. And instead of Christians trying to figure out actual, practical, tangible ways that we can solve this problem so we can prevent every other child from possibly being harmed, they would rather attack me. You Christians would rather attack me because you're so dedicated to preserving your delusion. You would rather attack me for pointing out the flaws of your bullshit way of life, your bullshit way of thinking, instead of actually rethinking your way of thinking and figuring out, hey, what is a better method? What is a more tangible, practical, useful method for stopping child predators? And more importantly, from stopping them among our own congregation, our own facilities, for stopping it in our own house. Why is the Lord not helping us out? Maybe we need to start being logical and reasonable and practical instead of purporting bullshit and hoping that it magically fixes the situation. You've had only thousands of years to show us that your way is the right way, that it actually works, that it actually can show us a better way to help prevent children from being harmed, and you have failed miserably. It's getting so bad that y'all are trying to bring back child labor in America. It's that bad here. Y'all want to do everything possible to harm children because you don't want to acknowledge the fact that your views are wrong. So that's why I use what's called the Hitchens razor, which is the concept that anything that you can purport without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. So if you want to assert that there's such a thing as this supreme being or these supreme beings, polytheism, monotheism, whichever version you want to purport, you can't demonstrate any of it at all. Therefore, there's no reason to even accept it as even a remote possibility of truth. Until such time that you theists, particularly you Christians, can demonstrate that your views are correct and they're rooted in our reality, there is no good reason for us to believe that any of you know what the hell you're talking about, because you just plain don't. You just don't. You don't know what you're talking about. And that's why science will always be superior to religion, because all science is just trying, the actual attempt of figuring out shit. That's what science is. It's our attempt to actually understand shit, not just bullshit, which is what religion is. It's just saying, oh, it must be the Lord. Yeah, that's why that tornado happened. See, tornado happened because, see, in that town, there's a bunch of gangs, and therefore, like, the Lord is, like, mad about that, so he sent a tornado. No. It's this thing called climate change. We have all types of people on it telling us what the problem is, giving us solutions, and you're willing to reject it all to preserve your delusion. This is how strongly people cling to their delusions. They cling to their delusions so hard that they're willing to kill us all and allow their own children to be harmed. Now, I'm not saying that this is what all Christians do. I'm not saying all Christians want their children to be harmed. But at the same time, you're putting them in the position where they can be harmed. You're pretending as if somebody being a Christian somehow makes them morally awesome, when we have so much overwhelming evidence of this not being the case. In fact, the opposite being the case. Like I said, the overwhelming majority of people in prison are some kind of religious. And guess what? The overwhelming majority of them are Christian. Yeah, Christian. Being a Christian don't mean shit. Being a Christian means that you are willing to publicly humiliate yourself by accepting bullshit. And therefore, there is no reason for anyone to take what you have to say seriously, because you're demonstrating you are willing to reject reality in favor of some bullshit cockamamie belief system that makes you feel good. And you think that just because it makes you feel good, I'm supposed to respect it. I'm supposed to respect your view. I'm supposed to respect the way you think about things. Despite your complete, total, and utter inability to demonstrate any of your beliefs to be rooted in our actual shared reality. Every time I ask a Christian to demonstrate the existence of the Father, the Son, or the Holy Spirit, They fail to do so. They want to talk about nonsensical things like spirits and souls and hopes and beliefs and faith and wishes and everything but demonstrating the existence of their Lord. You can't give us a clear detection method for this being, nor a communication method for this being or these beings. Whatever your particular view is, whatever your particular theistic view is, you can't demonstrate a detection method for these beings, nor a communication method for these beings. Therefore, there's no reason to listen to what you have to say. You should not have positions of any government. You should not have positions in any high-level executive branch of any kind, because you are already compromised with delusional thinking. So, at the end of the day, theism is incorrect. And as a result, children all over the world are being harmed. And until theists, particularly Christians, recognize that they are all full of shit and that their views are completely 100% incorrect, children will continue to be harmed. Until you Christians decide that you're actually going to stop being part of the problem and start being part of the solution, the problems will persist. And every time these things happen, every time somebody decides to shoot up a church or a Christian school, or some Christian wants to harm kids, I'm bringing it to your face and I'm telling you to your face, this is what happens when you continue to purport your bullshit. You think that your thoughts and prayers are solutions, and they are not at all. So, I'm getting off here. Ain't nobody coming through to watch me, obviously, because YouTube will not push the truth at all. They're going to push rabbits and fucking animals and bullshit. They'll push Jordan Peterson garbage, but won't push the truth. So, whatever. Holla at your boy.